Wow, welcome everybody. Great crowd tonight. Okay, roll call.
Ms. Kelly? Mr. Henry? Here. Mr. Bowman? Here. Mr. Depot? Here. Mr. Blount? Here. Mr. Peter? Here.
All right, can we please say the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion for approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Move to approve. Second. Say aye. Aye.
Yep, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to add this municipal order to our agenda today. It's MO 14/2022. Declaring the city owned personal property, people's equipments as surplus, and authorize the city administrator officer to solicit bids for sale.
All right, is there a second? Second. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly? Mr. Henry? Mr. Bowman?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, it's time to visit for communication. The first thing is the 2022 Independence Day Parade Award. So, I'm excited about this. Let's see. Parade winners are most original, second place. Okay, second place, CR Carving. Anybody here? All right, and first place under most original is Tracy Davis Insurance. Right, most entertaining. Believe it or not, we had a tie. So we have two first place awards tonight. First place, the Bella Dance and Groove Crew. Congratulations. All right. Okay, best represents the theme. Second place goes to Northern Kentucky Young Marines. And first place goes to Aaron Sizemore for judge. Thank you for all the parade participants. What a great parade. It's always such a fun time in Fort Thomas, especially when we have great weather like we did this year. And everybody shows up. It's a wonderful time. Thank you for everybody who participated. And also thank you to Linda Sloan and Jim Chop for being here. Stand up. Awesome job with the parade every single year, and we really appreciate you volunteering to do this. Thank you so much. All right, we'll move ahead on the agenda. Matt?
Okay, so I know we have a lot of visitors tonight, and I'm assuming some of them are going to be about zoning. So we've had some discussions over the last few weeks, and we kind of finalized those today. So I did want to say something before everybody wants to get up and talk. Obviously, we've received a lot of emails in the last week or so about the Planning Commission talking about the zoning ordinance. The emails have called for a pause to the process. Prior to these emails, we've been talking to council members who have also had concerns, listening to citizens about them and wanting to know more information. We realized, after I got here, realized that this process wasn't going to be over by the end of this year, which would be the end of this term for council, which means a new council would be kind of in the middle of a process like that, which is kind of, it's not a great scenario for any new council coming on. So what we're going to do is we are going to pause this process. We're going to pick it back up in January. In January, we're going to brief any new council and the existing council to make sure that they understand the process, they understand what's being proposed or even discussed. Get a little bit of guidance from them as well at that time, like we have been talking over the last couple of weeks. And that'll be an opportunity to get the new council on board so we can start the process again. Along with that, we are going to be setting up a informational meeting for citizens as well. We could do an online forum. Most likely it'll be a public hearing of sorts to try to, after we have council understanding the process, to kind of take a step back and make sure everybody is caught up on the process that we're moving forward with and kind of some of the options that we've been discussing. So hopefully this will be a little bit better understanding, even though we've been kind of going through this. We want to make sure that we take a pause here in the next few months, really plan this out, make sure that we're informing everybody, to include especially elected officials who are ultimately going to have to vote on this, and make sure that everybody is fully understands that. Let's see if I missed anything. So, we do appreciate all the feedback. The feedback that we've gotten on email has been very respectful, and that works really well with us because we can listen to that and discuss that and make plans moving forward. We all have the same goal to move us in the right direction, even though different people are going to have different views of what that is. But we do appreciate all the responses we've gotten. I will send out kind of a written response to everybody and post that for anybody that may not be present today or is still wanting to know what the plan is, and that way it should clarify some of the things moving forward. So with that said, Mayor.
All right, so we will open the session for visitors communication. If anybody would like to address council, state your name and address and tell us what you'd like to chat about.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to follow the Marines and the group crew. I also don't have feedback on planning and zoning. I just want to make sure that Matt and council, the mayor knows, I'm representing the Fort Thomas Swim Club. We had a board meeting last week, and so we are also in tandem with Vermont's Club, who would like to be a part of the Highland Avenue amenity down there discussions. So our ad hoc committee has not been formed yet, but we will do that in short order. I just want to get some visibility from council's perspective to know that we'd like to be included in that. So.
Sure. Anyone else like to address council? Yes, sir.
My name's Greg Newberry on Cannon Ridge, and I'm just kind of coming into this, and I've seen the emails, and I've got this printout here, And I would just like to suggest that I can't make heads or tails out of what's going on. So I would like to offer I'm an advertising and communications professional, and if I can help you guys put this together in a format that people can actually understand and grasp, like, oops, sorry, here's where we are, here's where we stand. Here's what we're recommending to do, here's how it'll affect you, here's what will affect you, that type of thing, so that people can really understand what's going on, because I'm not through everything, and I can't make heads or tails on it, I'm sorry.
Well, and I understand it's a difficult process, and that's why the process wasn't over. We're maybe 3/4 of the way through with the process, and that's why we've had people come to council meetings before and say, hey, what is this all about? Well, it was about the consultants in planning and zoning researching the different styles of zoning that's available in the United States now that other cities are using very effectively on ways to maybe have a little better control over what happens in your city rather than the standard method or the method we're using now. But it takes a lot of research to do that. So part of the process was getting planning and zoning group up to speed on what those options were. And we knew that there would be a time when they would get to a point of saying, okay, now we need to share more of this information. Now that we have a handle on what it is, let's try to get that out. But there's been so much feedback on this, we are going to take the pause in this. As Matt said, we realize we're going to have a change in some council people after the election, so we're going to have to bring some new folks up to speed too. So we are going to put a hold on this process until after that time, and then start with bringing council up to speed and then having public hearings or forums or whatever to try to share that information. I appreciate your offer to help us figure out how to share that intelligently.
Okay.
Because it is you know, it is a difficult thing to understand.
It is.
Yeah.
But it is doable.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And sir, if you would email me, I'd like to at least talk with you, just get some of your ideas if you wouldn't mind.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, is this on?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Sharon McKnight, I live at 62 Miller Lane. I did write you all about the zoning process and my observation and gave you some suggestions. But I have another question since I received some feedback, and hopefully you can clear that up for me, please. After reading your first paragraph response, you said that we've been ongoing since September of 2021 on the process of these meetings. And honestly, I only knew it in October when Kevin Barbian posted it on Facebook. And if it wasn't for him telling me about the meetings ever since I called you on this, I surely wouldn't have known any of this. But I know you're working on communication, and I appreciate that. And you guys are trying to get caught up on that. I know you are new, and I appreciate all you guys, everything you do. But my concern was, since you said it started in September of 2021, I wasn't aware of that. I live in the middle of the town, and it was focusing on the CBD district. And according to the minutes from the September minutes, which I encourage everyone to read, it looked like there were some developers who were requesting an amendment for the zoning codes, which would allow residential on the main floor. Because they wanted to they're interested in putting multifamily and row houses up the street from where I live. And I asked Kevin Barbian when I called up about that, when I got the October notice, I said, how does that process work? Could you tell us how a developer approaches the city, maybe you, Tim, how they go about asking you guys to change a zoning code amendment? Because I think that would help clear a lot of stuff up, because it seems like by the minutes, they were trying to push the amendment to be changed at that meeting. And then one of the planning commissioners said, hey, I think the transparency and the public would like to know about this. So could you explain that to me? Because,
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
that
First of all,
would clear a lot of stuff up.
the September meeting was also the meeting when the consultant was hired to study our entire planning and zoning code.
She was hired in September of 21.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's when the announcement was made, that we hired a consultant to help us through the process. Because part of our comprehensive plan is we have to review planning and zoning supposedly every 5 years. That's a state law, and everybody figures out a way to say, well, we started talking about it then, and it took us this long, but yes, developers will come in and say, hey, we want to change the zoning.
Who do they come into? I mean, who are they coming into? That's what
It's the
it,
city staff.
okay, to Kevin, Melissa, who are they coming into?
They submit an application to the planning commission.
To the planning commission. Okay, that's fine, because I specifically asked Kevin when this was posted, because this specifically says, to allow very specific residential uses in the CBD Central Business District Zone. These types of uses include residential uses on the ground floor level that include row houses, multifamily dwellings with flex space intended as a live-work unit. In this whole thing, nothing was told to us about the developers who were interested in this.
Well, and that's the point. The developer came and asked for planning and zoning to consider that, and they did not. That's separate. That is separate from the review of our entire planning and zoning code in the city of Fort Thomas. That is a long process that is taking approximately a year and a half, maybe longer, to review all of our codes, to look at all the aspects of our planning and zoning. You're pointing to a particular developer who came and made a request of planning and zoning, and they turned it down.
What, this is from the minutes from the September 21 City Planning Commission meeting that Dave Wormel asked why this portion of the zoning code is being singled out specifically, and why now instead of a more comprehensive amendment like you're speaking of, sir? A response was given with the recent interest of developers and the need to address and respond with the specifics and roadblocks to what may or may not be permitted. And the roadblocks is the ground floor residential. Now, when I asked Kevin Barbian back in October when I got this, I said, how many developers are interested in putting row houses up there? And I was told 2. And I said, well, as a resident, can I go up there and ask you guys, hey, I'd like to buy one of those houses that sit on the right in Masonic Lodge and turn it into residential, but there's a roadblock with the zoning code, so can I change that to suit my needs?
Yes.
Thank you, please tell me.
Number one, the comprehensive change.
I understand that.
Hang on. The comprehensive review of the entire zoning board. That's what's been ongoing, that's what's been.
I understand that, Pam.
Then you're talking about anybody who owns this property, come forward, request a zone change.
Yes.
It's a difficult thing to do. They have to make an application, sometimes it results in litigation. But yes, you could come up, and if you wanted the zoning to be different, you could come up and make that request. Now, there are hurdles that would have to be overcome that I'm not prepared to get into tonight, but it's a difficult thing to request a zone change. And so those are the 2 hurdles we're talking about.
Okay, well, I understand.
So the
what you're
process,
saying, Tim.
man, the process worked the way it's supposed to work.
I
A
understand.
person came and they were denied because it didn't match our current zoning. It's a different issue from the review of the entire zoning. And yes, as Tim said, you can come forth and ask for anything.
Okay, that's fine, that's good. A lot of people don't know that, I don't know that. But according to the September meeting, they were not denied. The proposal by Dave Wormel to schedule a public informative meeting to respond to asking if the planning commission was ready to make a motion on the proposed amendment updates.
That's just the process of how meetings go. And evidently it didn't happen because there are no row houses there.
Oh, I understand that, because they asked that transparency be made for the public to hear about this.
Right.
And that's what my concern was, because all through this process, we weren't aware of these developers wanting to come in and
Well, the
do that.
developers are not required to notify the property, every person in the city. They're just required to fill out an application and come to planning and zoning. If there was a request for a change and it affected your property, then you would be properly notified about that, and there would be a public hearing about it. You never got that far, because it was turned down. So the process does work.
Oh, I never seen that, but I didn't see that anywhere that it was turned down in any of these minutes, so I missed that part.
Okay.
That's all. And I stay on top of this, but thank you, I do appreciate you.
All right, would anybody else like to address council? Yes, ma'am.
People want payments. Sorry.
Good evening, my name is Marty Eads. I live at 22 Southview Avenue. With talking about transparency and zoning changes, I now have 4 Airbnbs across the street from my house, which has wreaked havoc on our street parking. And as a resident, it would have been really nice to know back in September when this guy got permission to put in 4 Airbnbs on my street, that the residents on that street could have been notified so we could have either objected to it or made some kind of contingency plan as to how parking is going to work. Because I work night shift, I come home early in the morning, and sometimes I have to park either at Southside Deli, which technically I'm not supposed to do, or I have to park like a quarter of a mile and walk home.
I appreciate your feedback on this. If you could get in touch with Matt and give him the details on that, because this is a relatively new ordinance that we passed, what, last year?
Yeah, and I found out about it in February, that was all sent
And
out.
he's not aware of it yet, so I'm not exactly sure all the requirements and maybe we can make some adjustments to it. But we want feedback on that. So give him a call, let him know all about it. Thank you.
Ma'am, what was your name again?
Myrna Eads.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, I'm Peggy Maggio, 37 South Shore Lane, Fort Thomas, Kentucky. I've got hands out, so I'm taking some out. I think that Sharon and Myrna both spoke to some issues we have here tonight. Issue number 1 is who's driving the train. I think that's what Sharon was talking about when she was talking about a September meeting in 2021. I also gave the minutes here at that meeting, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think it goes back to who's driving the train. When I was trying, as you all know, and you guys may not know, but the way I found out about this was in my grandson's piano lesson last October. I went into the piano lesson, the teacher was all dusted up. I said, "Do you have a job tonight?" And she said, "No, I'm going to the planning commission because this is what I heard, I'm not quoting her, but what I heard was, we're gonna have row houses all the way down to Fort Thomas Avenue in the CBD. I was dressed in my gardening clothes, I came up here and that night, I addressed planning commission. On my way here, I called 5 people who are well connected in Fort Thomas, said, "What's going on?" They said, "We never heard about it." I came up here and said, "Please stop, please pause it, nobody knows about it." So when we talk about Myrna and the Airbnb ordinance, I've come to find out nobody knows about that either, and I was one of them. So I'm here before you tonight for a couple of reasons. Reason number 1 was to pause the process, and I really appreciate that, Mayor, that you're doing that. Reason number 2 is I'd like to talk to you about the Central Business District. In the proposed zoning ordinance, what's proposed for the Central Business District is large multifamily housing and row houses. The handout that I just handed you is from the comprehensive plan. In that plan was called for various and several historical preservation efforts that, to my knowledge, I spoke to Kevin about this and to Chandra. None of these have come to fruition. Honestly, it blows my mind that one Highland ever happened without its consideration. Of the 4 buildings that came down to do one Highland. One of my pleasures in life is driving home at night. I come from Highlands down to the middle of town. And what I go through is one house after another, beautiful, nice front yards, historic buildings. They're pod aircraft carrier. Somebody in Fort Thomas literally measured one Highland, and it's the size of an aircraft carrier. Now, I'm not here to discuss one Highland. It's there, it's nicely done. We have it, let's accept it, let's love it. But let's not repeat that all the way down Fort Thomas Avenue. So, what I'm asking you tonight, Mayor and Matt, is to appoint somebody in Fort Thomas to put together a committee that we can look at potential historical preservation efforts for the CBD and other parts of Fort Thomas. Our city consultant said the planning commission, she was talking about form-based code, which we're talking about. What she said was, they'll use an example, they get form-based zoning. What she didn't mention was all the way down Fairfield Avenue is a historic preservation district. I propose that Fort Thomas would take a look at what that is. Not that we're going to do it, but just consider it. My understanding is there's 3 levels of historical preservation. There may be more, very unsophisticated. What I understand, level 1 is you don't change the doorknob without somebody, looking over your shoulder. Level number 2 is that there might be other constraints. Level number 3 is that you replace that property. You replace it with the same form, the same front yard, the same setbacks and sides. In other words, we'll have what we're used to on Fort Thomas Avenue. So I'm here tonight to ask you to please appoint somebody in Fort Thomas to head up that committee. I'll be glad to be on it. I've got a feeling we got a few other people who will be on it too. The third reason I'm here is to talk about communication. And actually to talk about policy choices in general. Since October, since I went to Vienna last month, been attending these planning commission meetings. And time again, the city consultant, the zoning consultant, her name is Elisa Duffy Rogers. Elisa looks at planning commission and she said, this is a policy choice about different aspects that are going on. That makes me very uncomfortable because I've always thought the policy choices were made by elected officials and not appointed committee members. So, what I'm asking you today is to look at those policies and for you guys to make the policies. I think we kind of have a backwards process here, maybe. Right now, we have a proposed zoning ordinance. Going back from there, we have somebody's made the policy. And what Chair was talking about in that September meeting, there wasn't a developer in front of the, let me go back. The September 2021 meeting, we're talking about the Planning Commission. There's no video of that meeting. We have a Fort Thomas citizen who goes to all the Planning Commission meetings and videos them. That meeting was not publicized that night, according to them. It wasn't on the website. They couldn't find it. There was a meeting because Planning Commission doesn't meet every single month. So we can't go back and look at the videotape. But we can go back and look at the minutes. And what it looks like in the minutes happened, again, I'm just saying in the minutes, it looks like Alicia Duffy Rogers, the consultant, was introduced by Ron Dill and by Kevin. And I'm just going to go from the meetings from that. She started talking about the different forms of coding, and then she brought up what I believe is this document. It is from September of 2021, and this is an abbreviated part of the big proposed code. This is just for the CBD, and it's just for row houses, and it's just for large multifamily. She presented this to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Apparently, something was brought for a vote. I'm quoting now. Talking about this one document, this one piece of the proposed zoning board. Here we go. Dave Warmwald asked why this portion of the zoning code, not a developer, not anybody from the front, just this portion, is being singled out specifically, and why now instead of a more comprehensive amendment. A response was given with the recent interest of developers and the need to address and respond with specifics and roadblocks to what may or may not be permitted. So in other words, that night, a developer who wasn't there was driving this train. We don't want developers driving the train.
That's the way the process works, though. A developer would come to the city and ask if they could do a particular, and they have to go to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning reviewed it, and they said no. At the same time, planning and zoning said, we've hired this consultant to help tell us about other zoning methods that are out there. It will come to council before we make the final decision. They don't. So the process is working exactly the way it's supposed to. The part that is, I guess, frustrating to people is a misunderstanding about, well, they're going to do this, they're going to do this. We don't know what they're going to do yet because the proposal has not come before council yet. But we are going to take the stock now and have them bring us up to speed on where they think they're headed. because they haven't gotten to the point where they're ready to propose yet. But if they can bring us up to speed on where they think they're heading and get feedback from us and feedback from the public, and then we'll proceed from that. But yes, this is the body that will make that all. So you're saying it's backwards, it's exactly the right way it's supposed to happen. Because we have people on the planning and zoning commission who are educated and have experience in that field. Some of us on council have that experience, some of us don't. So having that separate organization to review all this information, because they're Fort Thomas citizens, they know about it because it's part of their job or part of their work or whatever, that's very helpful to us. They have feedback to do that. So that's the process, and it's been working so far very well.
Well, with all due respect, that's not what happened that night. What happened that night was, there was a proposal, so a motion was made on this proposed amendment. Could have gone through that night, but planning and zoning, it would have been on the front desk. But what happened was, there was a proposal by David Warmall to schedule a public informative meeting in response to asking if the planning commission was ready to make a motion on the proposed amendment updates. Commission members feel that the public would appreciate transparency and awareness and would benefit from the presentation by CT consultants. There was a motion and a second to have a public meeting in October, which they did. But guess what? Nobody was here because nobody knew about it. And that's the other reason I'm here tonight. I'm here tonight to ask you all to beef up the communication. Mayor, I appreciate what you're saying, but I do believe the deal may be late in the dog because there are policy considerations that need to be made. In the proposed zoning, first of all, there's proposals for increased density here in Fort Thomas. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if it's coming from y'all, it's a policy decision, it's from developers because they want to go houses, it's coming from a consultant. I don't know. But as a city council, you have to decide, do you want individually increased density in Fort Thomas? Do you want houses that are now single-family houses, zoned for single-family houses, to now have row houses, large multi-family units, townhouses on them? That's a policy choice. That should be made before anybody ever writes the zoning plan. Number two, the CBD. In the CBD, as we discussed, they're calling for large multi-family houses and row houses. That's a policy decision by you all. Do you want CBD to be historical, or do you want the CBD to have a lot of density?
Hey, Peggy,
Yeah.
like we talked on the phone, none of that proposed is gonna happen until council views it. So once they get a proposal, they can change any aspect, which row houses is something we've all discussed. Well, I've discussed with council members here. So the problem is that proposal is what the planning commission is looking at. But just because it's in that proposal, that is absolutely does not mean that that's what's happening. So the process, and that's why I get that it's frustrating. We're trying to do a little something different here starting in January. But the council are the policymakers. The planning commission is making recommendations. They can completely shoot down everything that they're recommending. But they are working through it. They're creating ideas. And that's the change we're going to start making in January, is we're going to try to get some more guidance from council to them to guide them along the path, make sure that they aren't wasting time looking at row houses if that's something council necessarily wouldn't want. So we are working on that. I get what you're coming from. I appreciate our conversations, and I'll definitely follow up with you. Like I told you, I will.
I want to say one last policy choice here, and that's communication. And what I want to say is, inaction is a policy choice. Like, for example, if the Trump tax cuts expire in 2025, those lawmakers make a policy choice, either continuing on or not. By us not having effective communication in Fort Thomas, that is a policy choice. That is a policy that's saying, we don't have time, we don't have the expertise, blah, blah, blah. Let's get the time and the expertise. Otherwise, what you're saying is, you guys don't get to know what's going on here.
That's not the intent at all, and I understand.
I understand that, but I'm saying it's a policy
Two basic
choice.
things. Your comments about the process we've done, I don't agree with it. We've done the process exactly the way it's supposed to be done. As Matt said, we will make the final decision. On communication, yeah, I'll give you some credit there. We're doing our best on communication, but some of it's got to be on
These guys, how many people knew about this before last week? Did anybody here know about this before last week? The communication is ineffective.
Yeah, and that's what we're improving.
Yes.
Right now, it's on the
It is in the
website,
web.
it's on Facebook,
We need to have a city-wide mailer. A lot of cities, you got to, first of all, you're assuming that people have the internet, know how to use Facebook, subscribe to the 4 Times page, and then go on our website and start hunting around. We need print, specific, clear, hopefully from this nice gentleman, especially the zoning code, what it is now and what's going to change.
So you're recommending a monthly mailer to all citizens?
That's not my recommendation. You guys talk about it. Make a policy choice. The communication here is going to be #1 in the city. If you guys can't communicate it, it shouldn't happen. It should never go forward in citizens don't know about it. Lastly, I promise I'm sitting down right now. The 3 of you guys are running for re-election. And I would hope that you would make your policy choices. I hope that we as citizens and people you're asking to vote for you, that we will know what you think about your expensive for times. What you think about how the CPA should go, what you think about how communication should be. Not only just you 3, but all of candidates. And with that, thank you for listening.
Good evening, my name is Andrea Kay. I live on Cannon Ridge. And I just want to piggyback on one point. And I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but I want to talk about this communication issue at a basic level. I sent an email to every single one of you about our concern that we were ready to talk about here tonight. I heard back from 3 of you. One of you sent me an auto response with no content. The other 2 actually addressed the issue. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, what happened to the other umpteen of you? That is a message that this lady is trying to communicate. Lack of means to me, they don't really care. They're not seeing this as a priority, this person who has taken the time, me, and all these other people to write you. And I would urge you, I would ask you that as part of your communication policy, that you do indeed need to make a priority. Because we are the people that you're representing. We need you to tell us what's going on, and I would ask you to make it a priority and to answer every single email in some form. Just say, we're having a meeting and we look forward to hearing from you. That would be okay. Just tell me I matter.
I appreciate your comments, I really do. As I started to say, my concern is, yes, I know we're not doing enough on the communication. I want to say though, don't hold it against council. If you send an email to me or to Matt and I'll copy all council, they by their nature defer to me because I'm the mayor. And so they were waiting for me to give a response. Some people will go ahead and respond personally, but normally they don't. And that's just kind of that's just kind of the standard operating procedure if you've addressed everyone. But if it's an individual thing and they contacted you individually about something, you contact one, absolutely. So this was a more difficult task for us to do because of the automated system, which was really, really cool, by the way. That QR code that you could go to and it automatically directed, that's awesome. And
well, it had no
hope we can
content.
get to that stuff.
I got an email that had no content from your automatic response.
Yeah,
So
man, that was actually me. I was on vacation. I was out of town last week. And Sharon, you actually are the one that showed me that Microsoft is a little odd, and I didn't click an extra box to send it out to other people. So I apologize for that. But what was I didn't catch your name? Andrea.
Can I make one comment? In this particular instance, I try to be good about responding to every email, but if it started with, it has recently come to my attention, we got 60, 70 something, and it could be like an all day and night job to respond to everyone individually.
we do other people. That's what we do in our jobs. and the work you do. We respond to people. I appreciate what you're saying. I know it's not easy. Just say thank you. We'll get back to you. Look forward to seeing you. You don't have to write a book. You don't have to write a paragraph. Just let me know. Let us know you care. That is a basic of communication. It's the basis of every relationship. And this is a really important relationship. And I would ask you to revisit the policy that everybody's waiting for you to respond. Because we're sitting here on our end going, boy, silence, not hearing from anyone.
I will have to check with the city attorney on what the proper method is for us to do that. Because there are some regulations and rules about how we are to respond. So I'll check on that.
And I just have to add, every time, and there's only been a few issues that I've actually written you guys about in the years that I've lived here, and I've only ever heard from 3 of you. So it's not a new thing. It's not a priority is what it tells me.
And that's not the case at all.
You can tell me that, but if you ignore me, I don't know what else to think.
Well, I'm trying to share with you the way the policy is and how we do that, and I'm sorry it comes across that way. I truly am. And if we can do it differently, we will. We may be restricted on how we do that based on what the rules are, and I have to check with the attorney on that. And if we can improve it, we certainly will do our best.
One other comment real quick. I was thrilled to find out a few days ago when I logged on the city website that on the home page, on page 1, there's the calendar, and then you can click on, with all the meetings, and you can get to the agenda, and then also the zoning information was all like on page 1. So I mean, that's a vast improvement. I'm not saying we're doing everything we need to do to communicate, but I was really happy to see that the calendar is now accessible on page 1, and the agendas are also attached to each meeting. So that's a pretty vast improvement to the website.
Just one other thing to add, you can never communicate enough. That's the bottom line rule when it comes to these kinds of things. So if you do something in print, you do the website, you do Facebook, you do a group, you cannot do enough because not everybody looks at all those things. So, okay, thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
I'd like to make one comment too. You're fine, sit down. I just. I try to get back. It is tough. It is tough. You get a lot of emails when you go through them, and when they're all similar like that, sometimes you overlook one. So if we miss one, I definitely look to everybody here for advice. The mayor, Matt, and everybody in their skill set. The mayor does not speak for me, and so when he says that we look to him, I look to everybody, and especially everybody out here. I'm not knocking the mayor down or anything like that. I love the fact that he was responding. I think that's very impressive that he responded to everybody, although it should have done it individually, not the group. So, I appreciate everybody's input on all of this. If it wasn't for you guys and your communication and them working it out, we would be, as I suggested a couple months ago, bring us up to speed, and I was shot down, and now they're going to bring everybody up to speed because we have a new council. So your voices really do matter. And I want you to know, even though you didn't hear back, they heard you. So thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Benita. I live on Bonnie Lane. And just kind of a little brief little thing about the communication and information. Having lived through the 1 Highland Avenue and the proposed storage units at the south end situation, I don't know anything about anything when it comes to how the process is. But at some of those meetings, it was speak now or forever hold your peace. Well, just like has already been stated, a lot of people did not know about the meeting or maybe what the meeting was going to be about. And a lot of times between work schedules and kids' schedules, they can't maybe get to that meeting, but they want to still have input. They still want to feedback, give you their feedback. But we found at the meetings, you either speak now or forever hold your peace, because if you come to the next meeting, you're not allowed to speak about that subject. So please, if we could work on something in that manner that gives us the flexibility to be able to still have input and not a decision made tonight, and that's it, you're held to it no matter what type thing. So give us a little leeway especially because a lot of these parents and stuff, they have busy schedules, and I know you guys want to make decisions this month, because otherwise, if you don't make it this month, then it's 2-3 months down the road, and contractors are waiting on the go-ahead, so kind of how we can work together on stuff.
You brought up one good example of the process when you referenced the storage facility in the south end. That was approved by planning and zoning, and then it got to us and we shut it down. So sometimes, you know.
But it was a scary fight for those of us that live at the south end of town, and a lot of people did not know or realize that they were planning on doing that.
I know.
And if they didn't get there, so we didn't get a chance to even sometimes say, hey people, this is what's happening in your neighborhood, because if you didn't say something that night, or go that day to the meeting and speak up, you didn't have any say anymore, period, it was it, and you couldn't even write a letter to the mayor and say, well, we disagree with this now, well, too bad, the decision has been made. We are not hearing any more input. We'll hear you, but we're not gonna take in what you're saying because we're already making a decision. So kind of a little bit of help with that, because we're not all attorneys that know all the ins and outs or everything, or people that are involved in this every day. So kind of work with those of us that are not fully skilled in that passage. That's all I.
All right, anybody else like to address council?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My name's Don Vaughn, I live on Shawnee Avenue over here, and we got this water running like the first time, so that's the first time anybody on the street heard anything about this going on. And I know you guys have a website, so obviously I work here, I know the website. I didn't think, I'm looking at, everybody comes to my house, every time something like this goes on, like I know what's going on, I know. So that's what I'm here tonight. But I guess a lot of the concerns for the people who live older people on the street, including myself, I've lived in my house for 52 years on Shawnee. And I guess some of our concerns are like if the developers do come along and they go ahead and say do approve the new zoning, which you said happens every 5 years. So our question would be, well, say they approve the zoning stuff and they want to go ahead and do some residential, some row houses, whatever. Do we get a say if we don't want somebody like to buy our house or something, or do we have to?
Yeah, as a property owner, you do not have to sell your property.
And that's been a major concern all day.
Well, and again,
I wasn't coming to this meeting, right? That's the reason I came.
Nothing has been proposed yet. They are going through the process that are looking at potential things to propose to bring to council for us. And yes, there will be public hearings about that, so everybody can understand exactly what is being proposed before it gets voted on.
I appreciate every single thing, everybody in the council, the mayor, and I also appreciate everything everybody does. Because I kind of know a little bit of how the process works, so I can appreciate it. But the one thing our concern was, we got this, like I said, on Friday night, like, well, we're on the loop. And then we just kind of feel left out, and like, what if something happened that's really important and we didn't know about it? That's kind of like unfortunately, like the little raft beer place that's on top of my street now, it's in the process. Nobody knew about it. Not one person on my street knew about it. And I'm like, because every time something happens, they come to me, I'm like, call the city and ask them. Because they're the ones that proper people to talk to. Don't talk to me because I didn't say the wrong thing and you just lead the wrong direction. And I'm not here to argue with anybody or something. I understand what everybody's talking about, and I appreciate everybody's input because everybody does have to say, like some of the council said, everybody has a different point of view. Everyone does. Whether it's right or wrong, everyone has a point of view. And I know some of these meetings get kind of long and you're like, I want to be out here. So I do appreciate everything.
I'll second that.
So thank you guys, I really appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Tom Morrison, I live at 96 Hawthorne. And I wanted to follow up on what Anita was saying and maybe elaborate, be real precise about this. Back when we had the issue around storage. First of all, I believe it did pass council.
No, it didn't. No, it passed planning and zoning, got the.
That's right, it passed zoning, and then it was withdrawn by the person who submitted it. I don't think it actually went to vote.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was gonna be shot down.
Anyway, to be precise, it was not voted down. Which comes to my point, back then, and we have a new city attorney now, and I think this is partially what's driving this really early discussion and concern, was last time we were told that we were only allowed to address our concerns to the planning commission. The planning commission would take a vote and make a recommendation to council and the mayor, and at that point, they would take all the input that they had received during the planning commission meetings, which not all council members pay attention to, and they would take a vote, and we were not allowed to address the subject directly with council, with city council. And so what I'm asking here, and maybe this will help, is when a final draft comes out from this consultant, and we already know there's enough smoke there, some people are concerned about various details, there's a clear notification to the public that here's the final draft, and has it been approved by the planning commission? Once it comes out of that, I think we should have an opportunity to address council and provide our input, and not just we have to go on what our input was to the planning commission itself. Now, we were told previously we weren't allowed to do that. And I'm not sure that was true. I checked out with a different city, and they did not agree with that policy.
Maybe you and I are talking about two different things. Yeah. When this would show up at city council, it would be discussed. That input would be available again. So that's
And the citizens we will be able to give input after the final planning commission vote.
right.
And we'll be able to give that input on details that they're concerned about to the city council directly.
Just like you are today.
Yes,
That was not allowed in previous.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I don't know the details about it, but there is something, I think, and Tim, you might be able to help me out, where if somebody makes a challenge to planning and zoning and it comes to council, we're only allowed to review what happened in the public meeting of planning and zoning and no new information. There is something like that.
There was something
But
about
that's
that,
not,
but
that's
I
not what's
actually
gonna happen here.
benchmarked that with a different city, and the city attorney, that time in Fort Thomas, had a different opinion of other cities.
Well,
I just wanna make sure we're.
it's not gonna, yeah, that's not gonna happen. We're gonna get as much
Once the final
information out
recommendation
as
comes
we
through,
can.
the final draft,
Yeah.
what you're gonna vote on, before you vote on it, we get a chance to then.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
That was my question.
Thanks. Good.
Oh, thanks.
I'm Tiffany Huber, I'm from 26 Hawthorne. One of the things that I would like the council to think about is that at least the changes that are represented today in terms of these maps and what we think we might do, I would just ask, what are the benefits? We're basically asking 4 areas of Fort Thomas. I don't want to necessarily use the word burden, but to take on the burden of a lot of this investment, the south side, the CBD, and the 2 other areas. And one of the things that I would say is, what benefit as a resident, as a single family homeowner, do we get from this investment? And we've had this discussion before about what is it that we want from our town. And what we really want is for our town to be a single family resident situation where we can raise our children, send them to good schools, have safe sidewalks, and here's the thing. None of these decisions, and I think it's important to say, will probably impact any council member directly or any planning and zoning member directly. But it does impact a lot of us. And I've been on my street for 30 years, along with a lot of these other residents who have been in their homes and their residences for that long. I don't know how these multi-units, row houses, and duplexes are gonna help us. I actually have a 6 or 8 family that backs up, their lot backs up into several backyards of ours. And they recently moved the dumpster And now the wildlife that we used to enjoy is just a plethora of crows and hawks fighting over the garbage and making all the noise. And so there's light noise, there's noise from the animals. You know, there are bunches of kids that walk from Woodville to Hawthorne. On the corner of Hawthorne is the Samuel Woodville house, and the Bottos have done a fabulous job fixing that house up there. And I just think we need to re-ask our residents, what do they really want? Maybe 27% of 700 people who responded to the comprehensive plan, you know, made some comment in that meeting. But if you look at the number of residents who live on those streets, between Woodville and I'm not just using my side of town, but it's also true for the other parts of town. We just ask that you step outside of yourself and think about how you would feel if these were the things that were proposed next to your house. Because it is disheartening. And I thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for taking a pause. Because I have felt for a long time that our voices have not mattered. And I think we also, if you look at South Fort Thomas, we do have we have San Serena. We have that multi-unit that I just talked about. We have condos behind KLH. We have a Thor family on Concord. I just don't see the need for what we are proposing, but I am excited about some of the other city in the park feel that we've talked about in the comprehensive plan, as well as all the stuff that we're doing with our parks and the other things that we're doing. The other thing is, I know a lot of times we talk about, you know, we're trying to be like somebody else. I think we teach our children, don't be a follower, be a leader. Let's lead Fort Thomas the way we want it led. We don't have to follow another city or another town. Let's be us. And we love it. Back when this, I hate to bring up the storage facility, and thank you for not approving that. It is my understanding that back at that time, planning and zoning, or that council had really only gone against planning and zoning twice in 30 years. This is why your citizens care, they want to be involved. And Mayor, I respect that you say that you guys will be the ones making the decision, but I do want the government to be by the people and for the people, all of the people of Fort Thomas. And then the last thing, I know you guys have made tremendous efforts on the website. I still just think it's so critical, something that Tom and I asked for back when we were dealing with the storage facility. We have got to have a communication system on the website, and I hope that that's something you're able to accomplish soon, where when these things are happening, people can sign in for an opt-in email that they get a blast saying, hey, this is what we're talking about tonight. We want our people to be involved. Because I would say similar to, I forget who it was up here. You know, it tells us that you care about what we want for our town. And we want to share the town with you, and you're right, we may have differences in opinion, but I think the more we collaborate, the more we can be a better town.
Great. Thank you so much.
Jim McCord, 121 Brentwood. And I think kind of the heart of what's going on here. I was a realtor for 28 years. I'm no longer a realtor. I'm born and raised in Fort Thomas. I used to ride Matt to school. My mom, Ron Dale, that's going to be the better.
He loves that story.
That's fine.
We're all good too.
Let me give you my impression of this. If you Google Fort Thomas, it comes up City of Beautiful Homes. And it always has been known as the City of Beautiful Homes. And I think because of that, we haven't had to come to a lot of city council meetings. Past city councils and planning and zoning have kept the homes they allow business to move in, like up on the avenue like you had, and like I was up Friday with Jeff Janicek in the old library building, you know, and there's all kinds of businesses in these beautiful old homes. You allow business to move in, and you allow some multifamily to move in, but people ride through Fort Thomas. And it's basically the way it was 50, 60 years ago. And then came one Highland Avenue. You know, if you had communicated, and I'm sure you went through the process, I'm a realtor, I know what the process is. I have asked, now you're gonna think I'm kidding, I've asked everybody from Fort Thomas that I've talked to since that went up. Not one person approves of that election. Now I know there's plenty who do, but I haven't met one yet, not one. And you talk about ambience, that destroyed the ambience of the central business district. And if you guys are planning on putting more buildings like that along the avenue, you're gonna totally destroy what past city councils and planning and zoning have kept for decades.
If no one else would, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And first, when I went on to Fort Thomas, or whatever it is, and I saw the calendar, I was stunned. But I'll tell you, I mean, and it looked good. But I'll tell you what's funny, I clicked on the tab calendar, it's gone, it's not there. And I couldn't get back to it. So it's on the main page, but it's not on the calendar page. They still got, you have to scroll down day by day to see if you see anything, you can't see the months in there. So I thought that was a little bit interesting.
Jen, you can't see it. It's set up as a month. We did do some upgrades in the last 2 weeks, but you can also subscribe to it where it downloads all the events and keeps them updated on your Google or Microsoft calendar, just so you're aware of
I
it.
don't use either of those, but progress is progress. I am Jen Fair, I'm a resident of Fort Thomas. I came here with something to read, my single agenda item until I got here, and I found I gave two. First off, unexpected, I would like to nominate Matt as Grand Marshal of next year's parade, based on the way he gave the story we've all been hoping to hear during this week. So I couldn't be happier, and I would cheer for you walking as you rode by. Anyway, and I'm going to read this because some of the things I think haven't been heard by some of the people, and again, so many. Well, you might have another thing for Ken. He mentioned if y'all responded to every email, you'd be up all night. I wish you knew how many people in this group have been up all night after walking all day, door to door, to tell the people, and more did than didn't say, I have no idea what you're talking about. So as far as staying up all night, that group back here, a lot of them have done that. So I appreciate your saying that. And by the way, I didn't get the canned response. I did get one response, and I thank God for that. But I didn't get the one that supposedly had the mayor's approval from the wording. That's an aside. But I am here tonight to emphasize that further discussion of the rezoning and revamping of so much of our city needs to be put on hold. Thanks for that. Not silenced, not canceled, simply put on hold until citizens can hear and study and fully understand what exactly is being proposed. Put on hold. Let the citizens have some input before it's too late. Our country is painfully familiar with the statement that we have to pass the bill so you can find out what's in it. Come on, really? We're better than that. I know we are. I know you are. It's been almost a full year since I first heard rumblings about changing the rest of the central business district. One Highland had come to fruition by then, and developers were ready to move on, to change the rest of what my generation always called the avenue. The goal was to move quickly before word of the changes got out, at least before details of the changes were known. Before Fort Thomas, as we knew it, vanished before our eyes. So I looked into details and was really caught off guard by some of the things I found. Details were hidden between the cracks, and the plan was written in a way that was definitely not meant for the average person to interpret. I personally read much of the zoning update Unified Development Ordinance. Confused, I took several sections to a very well-known attorney in the area to interpret them for me. As successful as this man is, and he is, his conclusion was, I've been involved with some building and zoning cases over the years but you really need to go to someone who specializes full-time in zoning ordinances to decide for this. I was a bit stunned. The document, written by CT Consultants, was clearly not intended to explain the changes to the community. Last week, many people received an email from Mayor Haas, I didn't, as I mentioned, that said that there would be a public meeting to discuss the proposed changes. I thank you so much for that, I truly do. But tonight I ask, what is the date and the time and the location for that meeting? More importantly, how will that information be broadcast to the community? We no longer have a paper of records for these announcements. I don't know if the marquee exists at the new city building, but the old marquee was parallel to the road and cannot be read by anyone driving past the city building. Recently, when the city is asked a question about a meeting or an ordinance, or about most anything, the standard answer of "it's on the website" has been replaced by "it's on the app." Other than hearing about it at a prior council meeting, I never heard a mention of the app. I'm not saying no one uses the app, I'm just saying no one I know uses the app. So it's clearly not a fair communication tool for our city. Facebook is not even remotely adequate to get this information out. It's unfair to expect every citizen to be on Facebook every day and to belong to every group page and to search through all the posts and comments, hoping to find something they don't even know exists. Without the newspaper, a marquee, the website, the app, or Facebook being good tools to use, there is only one answer, and that answer is clear. Every citizen in Fort Thomas deserves a written letter mailed directly to their house informing them of the date and time and location of the upcoming meeting, along with a clear agenda of the topics that will be discussed. Not an agenda with vague bullet points such as zoning, or housing, or building. We deserve details on the agenda, such as changing several residential zones from single-family to multifamily. Subpoints, specific streets that could be impacted need to be named. Launching an effort to increase the density of the housing. Subnote, how to fit more people into our city with the goal of these people supporting our local businesses. Not just bullet points, but specifics. This is only fair. It's disheartening to hear that the city council or zoning committee or other entities abide by the "we're not obligated by law to inform the public about such things" mentality. There's a legal and then there's moral. I'm all for the legal, but we are remiss if we don't couple being moral with those legal requirements. It's only right. We need transparency here. Transparency is, to me, another way of saying we need honesty. Not informing is the same as withholding information, which is the same as being disingenuous. Please be honest, please be transparent. Actively inform the community. Reach out, send a direct mailing. Don't passively inform us. Don't bury some mention of a significant issue in our town somewhere down the deep tunnels that leads through the fortthomas.org page. We no longer accept that the city has done its part by placing it on the website and that it's the resident's fault if she doesn't find it. This is just not how things should be done. With that in mind, we are also asking that the city hire or assign a person to be responsible for such communication between City Hall and the residents who fund City Hall. The amount of money that has been made available to a limited number of residents during this past year makes it clear that there is ample money available to fund this effort. One Highland and now the rezoning effort has awakened a sleeping giant. So many residents will no longer go blindly along with what we're told we want. Imagine our surprise when we learned that our beautiful homes could soon be replaced by row houses. When we learned that Airbnbs are permitted anywhere in our city. When we learned that experimental labs are now or will probably possibly soon be permitted in the Alexandria Gateway experimental labs. It's in the documentation. When we learned that residential care facilities for persons with disabilities will be allowed on residential streets throughout Fort Thomas. We were told to read the community plan, a document that is 225 pages long and is only posted on the fortthomas.org website. Imagine our surprise when we learned that CT Consultants quoted this community plan as a basis for many of their recommendations. We watched videos and read the minutes from prior zoning board meetings and found that this was not necessarily the case. The minutes of the Planning Commission meeting of September 14, 2021 detailed what we heard tonight, that when asked a question from someone on the Planning and Zoning Commission, asked CP about a specific amendment that was being discussed, the response was because of the recent interest of developers, plural, and the need to address and respond with the specifics and roadblocks to what may or may not be permitted. With that simple statement, it was confirmed that our citizens are not the first group to be called upon to mold the future of our city. Apparently, we fall behind both developers as well as consultants. Yes, the sleeping giants have been awakened, and you can imagine our surprise. Stopping this fast-moving train and pausing this process will certainly benefit all of us. Communicate with the public. Pause the process to allow time to communicate with the public. This can be done with a motion and an affirmative vote tonight. We want to work with you. Please work with us. Thank you.
Can I ask one more thing? It's quick. Oh, sorry.
There's someone in the back.
Oh, go ahead.
Someone who has.
No, that,
Sorry.
My name is Charles Sutter. I live at 85 South View Avenue. We're looking to find out what's going on with the plan for South View. There is, over the Army barracks, I live in one of the barracks on South View. We knew there was barracks there. They were built in 1900. And they became Airbnbs. And so, that's what I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the plan. How are we going to get them on that small street? With them building up the beginning of the street, how we're going to build up that next street?
Is this the same situation the other? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the Airbnb? Is that the question?
They were Army barracks.
Okay.
But now
So
they're.
we don't want to tear them down because they were Army barracks.
Okay.
When you over here tear these down, we don't want those to go down as well. It's history. My wife was on the street for 63 years. My brother-in-law was on the street for 70 years. I've been here for 40 years. When they went and put the fence around, the water company over here, I told the committee, they want to put chain links up, high wildfire, cameras and everything. You see what kind of things you got now. We don't want that out of this. It need to be nice, it's not open to hand. So I'm just trying to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One last request. When we have these documents with city council or planning and zoning, it would be nice on the website to have, okay, this is what we discussed last time, and keep a record of those documents. Because what we've noticed is that sometimes when they go from document to a document, changes are made that the residents of Fort Thomas aren't necessarily aware of. We believe that happened back when the original comprehensive plan was done, and we were here for one of the last council meetings, and then by the time it got finalized by council, it was, we couldn't make any changes or felt we couldn't, so it would be nice to have a record of those revisions. So that, again, it's a transparency thing. That's all I ask.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm not going to talk about communication, because they've already.
First, I'd like to thank all of you for your time, commitment,
Your
and service
name.
to our community. My
Name.
name is Paula Benamini. I live at 18 Gunpowder Ridge on the north end. I'm here this evening to talk about the zoning proposals, but I think everybody has covered that. But I am concerned about, thinking in the future, after the pause of apartments, bed and breakfast, multi-families. Currently, we have about 2,000 plus rental units in our town. I think somebody told me it's 30 to 33% in our town right now. This number does not include rental homes. Statistically, it's known that more dwelling units like these, the higher the crime, the higher disruption. It's known that crime rates go up. Saturation can affect our schools, our superior education, which in turn can affect budgets, etc. Look in certain areas that have a lot of
multi-families housing, like in Newport, Covington, Price Hill, Western Hill, where I was raised. Really sad. It used to be a Fort Thomas. We aren't like any of the areas I'm referring to, nor do we want to become one. We are a town of uniqueness. Homes that have character, history, and charm. We take pride in our city. This is why people do not generally leave Fort Thomas. Or if they do, they tend to come back. Do I think that there are areas that need improvement? Yes. In our business district, we could use some updating to make it look more cohesive or unique. My hope is that we preserve the homes by One Highland and other historical homes in our community. We do not need more multi-family homes, row houses, apartments in our central business district to support businesses. We need businesses to come in and to do it right. If they do, they will get the support from our community. We don't need to line the pockets of developers. We need to put our monies into preserving the history and uniqueness of our town. Many communities have historical labor committees to protect their historical homes. To my knowledge, we do not, which is kind of hard for me to believe. I ask that you pause, which we have, and I thank you for that. But I ask that you really look at this comprehensive plan and the zoning proposal that she's already given you. You've got time to look into it and time to read about it, and hopefully you all see how we do.
Thank you. If there's no one else, we'll continue on. Oh, yes, sir. Come on.
Nice thing about being last, everything almost is covered. Right on the board. But there's been some good things here tonight, a lot of positive stuff. And that's one of the things, I'm Ken Honchel from the Covey place, at the north end of town. I'm from here and so forth. Everybody gets tired of hearing that. But you know, it brings, when you're sort of on the outside looking in, people come, families move in, and there's a reason why they move here. There's a reason why they move here. And there's a reason why they want to stay, and so forth. And it's a council, when I was on the school board, the thing that if you don't hear anything, I guess everything's going okay. And that's kind of the way it is with city council. I think what really scares people is everyone is here for the right reasons. You know, it's the veteran community of Cincinnati. That's one thing they say. A good school district, security, like the police, everything. You know, seems to be running well and everything. And so families move in, new families move in. That's what keeps it going. And there's a couple things that scares people. Is when everything is going pretty well like that, they see something like this, and it scares them to death. I'd like to know what the goal was of planning something like this. You know, what's the reason for it? You know, where did this idea come from? I know planning, you know, I think right now, I think it's been the policy in the past is, I guess, when someone asks for rezoning, it's a one thing here and one thing there, and that's how things are solved, I guess. City council decides that if there's a dispute or what somebody wants to build. Is that how that works?
Normally goes to planning and zoning. If there's an actual change to a zone, a request for a zoning change, that would come to us.
Yeah.
But if they're asking for a variance, that would just happen in planning and zoning or board of adjustment.
Yeah, but this is altogether different from what I hear. And there's a lot of people that aren't here tonight. They got things to do. They with their kids at school. If you go to the school, I drove up here. Johnson's filled with cars. Highlands is filled with cars. And I'm assuming that's that way with Warrior and with you know, people, you know, families have kids, they want things to go well, so I think what scares everybody is you know, what's the ultimate goal of this? If everything we feel as a community is going pretty well, is it, and another thing like this, things like this would affect the school, the population of the school. Is it going to increase, decrease if you tear houses down someday? And we're full now, I think, or, you know, we're always near full. And that's a good problem to have at the school. And we have police that monitor, you know, the school, you know, and families like that. So I guess what really concerns me is how this got started, how it got to where it is, and what the goal is. Like, can anybody tell me? I mean,
the goal,
I would just want a Cliff Notes version of that. I don't need to know all the details.
all we're doing is trying to update our zoning ordinance, and all this is a review of different types of zoning that are available for us to look at. No decisions that we make.
Well, I think putting it on hold, I guess, you know, from what we heard tonight, I think that's good. So there'll be some additional planning. But what scared me personally was, how did we get to here? What was the goal? Were we, you know, you hear some people want to take the population out of the urban area and move it out to the suburban area. Is that what we want to do here? I don't know. So I don't know if that's what we want to do. I think we want to keep it residential and, you know, so it's not. But like I say, I'll repeat myself, that's what happened to me last. But thank you for having this.
Thanks for your comments.
I think it'll prove to be, in the end, it'll be the right thing to do.
Okay, now you said your last.
Let's sit down and read into the good place. One, I want to touch on a couple things. First of all, thanks for pausing the whole zoning thing. That was the best decision that I've seen come out of council in a long time. Secondly, Matt, you said that there's an option for the events on the calendar and then put it email. Can I go in and say I want to be notified when there's a recreation committee meeting? I want to be notified when there's a finance committee meeting?
No, right now you get it all.
Yeah, I don't want all.
Yeah, I've got it all now, and it is a little bit tough. If we can figure out a way to do that differently, yeah, I'm sure there is.
Someone said
we got
too much communication is impossible, so.
Yeah.
What do you want, Liz?
Communication, when you get, you know, 200 notices a day.
I've got everything coming to my phone now, and I like it, but it is a little bit frustrating because I think, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be somewhere. Oh no, that's just a notice of something that I'm not interested in.
There's definitely an opt-in option, hopefully that can be.
Yeah, we're working
We're working on that. So I want to ask two things. Are the documents that were put up here for the park, Tower Park, the Riverside Park, the Briggs Park, and the splash pad, are those going to be available on the website?
Yes. Yeah, we'll put it on there.
Okay.
It'll either be a part of the minutes that are approved at the next meeting, or but we will be adding it on.
It's probably not there yet because we just had.
Correct.
We have to get
All right, so. Well,
No, she's talking about the rec committee meeting that was prior to this.
Okay, so then I guess I want to take everybody back to the March meeting. And there was some discussion when Ben read the finance report, and there was a little bit of confusion about when we accept a report, that's not saying that we're accepting what is in the report. And to quote Ron Gill, at the 1 minute, 27-minute, 33-second point in time, you think it's bad to sit through these meetings in person? I need to do it again today and listen to the whole thing. But I did, because I think it's important that we understand. Ron specifically said, the report is for projects to be considered to move forward. That's it, projects to move forward. We approved going to the next phase, which the next phase was the design and construction phase, which Mr. Main presented this evening. And we do need to get approval by the council. And we're not approving any expenditures for that. The only expenditures that were approved that night were to move forward with the design and construction phase. I'm talking about the splash park down in Highland Park.
Design phase.
Please?
Design phase, but not construction.
No, Ron, at the 1 minute 55, 1 hour and 55 minutes, it was said that the design and construction phase, that was the exact term that was used.
Liz, there was a motion made to forward the splash pads, start design and get cost estimates, which is part of the bid process.
Right.
That was voted on and approved by council.
That's what he was
Right,
referring to.
right. But to do the design and construction, or design and whatever, design and.
It's not construction.
Okay, whatever.
It is
estimate of
to
what it
move
costs.
forward with the splash pad, start design and get cost estimates.
Okay.
That's
So
the actual motion.
That's what it was, okay. All right, so just wanted to throw that out there. And then one last issue is, and I don't know if Peggy Medja is still here? Oh, right from me. Okay, so there is an opening on the Planning and Zoning Committee. It's been vacant for several months now. I believe Mr. Kinker is the gentleman. And at a meeting, 3 months ago, it was supposed to be brought to Mayor Haas to get that position filled. And I was wondering, one, if that position has been filled, because I know it's a appointed position by you. And I think Peggy Maggio, with her legal, her involvement, she can read contracts, she can read all that stuff. And I think that she would be an ideal candidate for that position. I know it might involve, because she is very involved with her family, and she puts her family first, that I think it should be allowed for anybody here. That if you're out of town for business, you should be able to join in the meeting via Zoom or whatever. It's been done, so I think that Peggy should be considered to be appointed for that position. Just throwing that out there.
All right, thank you. All right.
My name is Anita Tracy, and I live at 222 Riverside. And only because she brought up the Planning and Zoning Commission, is there a conflict of interest for a member on the Planning and Zoning Committee to be a developer?
None at all. It's one of the things which. Sorry. No. Yeah. So if a person is a developer and they have something directly affected, yes, they would recuse themselves. But having a developer, having somebody who's an architect, having somebody who's an engineer, all that kind of background is very helpful for that position. And they're all volunteers. They're our neighbors, they're our friends and neighbors, and they're volunteering their time. It's pretty much what we do. We get a little bit of a pay, but basically we all care about the city and we want to do the best thing for the city. So yeah, I don't see any problem with that. If there was a direct thing, they would recuse themselves completely from the discussion.
But recusing from the vote, you're talking if you're an engineer or if you're an architect or things like that. I concur. But when you're the property owner, that they're voting on what is that property, are we going to make it mutually beneficial to the owner?
Well, he wouldn't be part of that, or she wouldn't be part of that discussion.
It's the final vote to recuse yourself at that point. It's way too late in the game. To be in on every
I'm not aware of what you're.
That's not how it works. I've had to recuse myself several times
from the committee,
from council votes and any discussion. That's what recusal means. It's different than abstaining. That's what recusal means. If I do work for the water district, for example. There's something here with the water district and the city, you know, I recuse myself because that could be perceived as a conflict. I mean, you want people with knowledge and expertise.
Not ownership. Not ownership of the property on which the decision is being made. Not ownership of the property.
Right, so that's why legally, that vote is not, that participation is not permitted.
Or financial benefit. Like, did anybody on council or planning and zoning have any financial benefit from one hot
No,
Did anybody have any? Just honest.
there's a rumor that I have a condo there, and I do not.
We are starting
That's what he's talking about. You absolutely know what. Too many people here are saying, no, that there were people on the comprehensive plan committee, on the zoning committee,
Hey, Jen, if we would, everybody's talking code here. Can somebody email me and tell me the ethical violation that they think it is, and then I can research that? That would be what I would prefer. Unless somebody's gonna come up and make an accusation on somebody, if you could contact me and we can.
I'm not gonna make an accusation because I don't know the person's name, but I was told by numerous people, and I don't know if it's planning and
Wait a
zoning.
minute. I'm not gonna hear this. I was told by numerous people. There's
Yeah, I heard that
actual
somebody on Monday is
reality.
benefiting greatly financially from one hot
And that's
the ugliest building that's ever been put in Fort Thomas.
It's not fair to people.
But that's,
It wasn't me.
that's,
You never accused it, you never accused it.
You just did. You just stood up there and said it. You said, well, it must be you. That's what you said.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna stop the public portion of the meeting. We've had a great conversation tonight. We've had a lot of good ideas. I appreciate your time. We're gonna move on with our agenda tonight. Thank you all for being so caring about Fort Thomas. And believe it or not, those of us up here do care a lot about the city too. We are trying, and we're hopefully gonna get better every single day at getting communication out to everybody and doing the right thing for the city, because that's why we're here. So you're welcome to stay. We've got more on the agenda, or you're welcome to leave if you'd like. Either way is fine with us. So we're gonna go to the fire department monthly report. Chief, go for it.
So, the municipal order that Mr. Wild added to the agenda was a request that I received through the North Kentucky Firefighters Association.
At least we know who gives them benefits.
On Friday afternoon, from the Kentucky Fire Commission, they're looking for any kind of donations or surplus fire equipment to donate to the fire departments in Eastern Kentucky. That's basically cost anything. So today I went around looking through our storage area and found some surplus equipment that I feel we can donate to that group. And that's what's there. So that's awesome.
That's great. Can you do me a favor? I was just on a call with potentially all the mayors in Kentucky, and one of the things they're having difficulty with is they're actually getting too much stuff, and they don't know what to do with it, and they don't want to offend people to turn it down. So if you could try to contact them and say, we have this, this, and this. Is this something you could use before we actually send it down there? Because they're it's embarrassing. They're struggling with that. But anyway, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, thank you. Entertain motion?
Second.
Oh, we have to vote on the municipal order. I'm sorry. No.
At the end. We did.
We do it at the end.
Yeah, we already voted on it. And it's on the agenda.
Okay. So that was your report. Moved up to the vote. Excellent. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you.
This motion all to say yes, we did, otherwise it goes back into our principal
So, the vote earlier was added to the agenda. This is items that are gonna be surplus regardless. It's just, right now, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if we needed to designate it to be our surplus stuff for sale.
No, this is gonna be designated for the surplus to another government agency. If it turns out they don't need it, then we'll just do another one in the future to put it for sale. That's okay.
Okay, police department report. Chief.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to say that Wednesday is back to school, so all of our safety drills in the schools are scheduled for all schools with the fire department and the police department. Every Fort Thomas police officer has walked through every public school throughout the summer, make sure we have all the floor plans, where all the nooks and crannies are and stuff like that. And then lastly, back to school break is traffic. We don't know what that means in the morning and afternoon, so be safe, be courteous of others, and take your house 5 minutes early for back to school starting Wednesday. That's all I have.
I do have a quick question.
Sure.
The SRO mandate, how are we handling that?
Matt, you want to take that?
It's fine. That is actually for the school board to, the onus is on them to make the adjustments. So if we only have one SRO for the entire district, so that's what they're reporting, and they have to explain why they only have one and why they're not adding any more.
We might be able to continue with that. I mean, we're not going to need 3 devoted to 4.
No, I have been in talks with the superintendent. It is my intent to add another one moving forward. I think we should have 2. Right now, they're not interested in doing that, but it just came out, so I'll continue discussing that. We have looked at other options of having volunteers and things like that to kind of support the security, but again, the onus on that is on the school board and the school district to handle it.
The payroll will be on us if it's mandated that we have an employee.
No, that was one of the big changes that I actually initially pushed for when that first bill came out. Was it originally had the onus on the city, which I didn't think was fair. So they actually changed that in the first committee meeting to put the onus on the school board to actually pay for that.
That's our program. It was initially put there right there for safety, but with Zach, can't give him enough credit. The great suggestion he developed with the students and the safety protocols and everything. It's a program like this. It's good.
Chief, did you have anything else?
Move to receive file.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Okay, great, thanks.
All right, I'm gonna make this very short. The only update I'm gonna add is Terry Baker, who's the animal control officer, is no longer employed with the city of Fort Thomas. She took a position at Newport. With that said, we have been in negotiations over the last month since we received that notice to have that county, Campbell County, actually take over animal control again. So in the next month or 2, you will be seeing a contract with them that needs to be approved and some changes in our animal ordinance, just to show that they will be the ones handling animal control.
Will they still be based in Fort Thomas?
No.
Everything's out?
No, everything is out of Fort Thomas now. Effective immediately, but the paperwork will follow. If anybody has any questions, that's all I have.
Okay, so, thanks.
We did do a report for that video earlier, is that okay? Parks, right?
Oh, for sure.
We had a meeting earlier for the Parks and Green Spaces Committee. We had a lot of really good conversation about some topics that are happening in town. When it is posted, when our minutes are posted for that committee meeting, I would employ all of you to go check it out, because there's really neat stuff that's happening in Fort Thomas. Especially the main playground area, we're redeveloping it. It's way past due to have that part of the park done. And we are asking for feedback from the public. So if you can come, please participate at our next meeting, which when we get it scheduled, Matt will make everybody aware. We would love to have this feedback from as many different groups as we possibly can, because we think we're close, but we obviously, through the transparency and communication conversations we've had, we want to have your input as well. So, 2 things that did come.
Will the minutes be posted prior to the next meeting? Because generally they don't post them until the meetings have been approved.
No, the minutes can't be posted until they're approved.
That's what I mean, so if you say they're in minutes, here's what's happening coming to the meeting, and they're not until.
Our next meeting, our next parks meeting probably will not be until after the next council meeting. So the minutes will be posted prior to our next parks meeting. We don't have a parks meeting scheduled yet. If we did, we do.
So council approves the minutes of the meeting.
No, the actual committee will approve it.
Yeah, which we're getting ready to do. No, we're not gonna do that now.
I mean, I guess we could put out a draft.
I guess I'm saying, it seems like we're sort of a time warp thing.
Yeah, we can do that. That procedurally, that's how you're not supposed to post them until, but we can do a draft if that's what the chairman.
That's why, yeah, that's because.
The sooner the better, fine, that's, you're ahead of that, that's still good with me. And you want me to read the two pieces of the action on tonight, or? Yeah. So we did have two pieces of action, that we voted on tonight, that will be coming out of committee to council. Do they need a vote coming out of a recommendation from the committee?
Council's vote? No, we don't need a vote from council.
Okay, so the first item was we are tabling the zip line that was going to be proposed here in the park, well, somewhere in the park. So that's being tabled to a later date, which we don't have that date. So it's not, we did not just completely remove it because there was many people that didn't like it. There was just as many people that did like it. So out of respect for the process, we're just tabling that for now. The second piece that came out is to move forward with the consideration for construction documents in a set of bids to see how much the new park will cost. So to get plans, to get physical plans, more than just pictures, and then also send those out for bids. With the contingency that we have the input from the groups and anybody else that would like to participate in that.
Does that require a vote of the whole council to approve the moving forward with the docs?
That's why I don't know. That's why I asked
So moved to affirm the recommendation.
Is there a second? Second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hendry? Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Good report. All right, we're, no old business, down to new business. And consideration and order local agreement, do we have that?
Yeah, we don't have it, I just, sorry. Yeah, I already talked about that.
Okay. All right, we are down, no, we're someplace down where finance.
Roger, do you wanna?
Well, we didn't approve finance.
For the executive session.
Oh, we normally do that at the end. Is that all right? Yeah. Okay, so, finance committee report on disbursements.
Report of disbursements, July 16th through August 11th, 2022. General fund, $292,044.43.
Your mic's not on.
I can read it.
Take two.
Public Works KDOT Fund, $188,781.87. CBD Revitalization, $153,843.27. Waste fees, $101,998.54. Police and Fire Pension Fund, $1,519.07. Total, $738,187.18. We, the undersigned members of the Finance Committee, recommend that warrants number 11543 through 11686 be approved and the treasurer be authorized to issue checks for their payment. Mr. Pendry, chairperson, Mr. Diesel, member, Mr. Peterman, member.
I'm sorry, did I hear 153,000 from me for the CBD?
CBD revitalization, $153,843.27.
Can you explain that to us?
I can explain, I'll be the finance director for a minute.
Yes.
The Central Business District is actually kind of a project fund, so really what M153 probably is, and I can go through the specifics here, it's probably for the city building, if I had to guess. That's our primary big number project that's happening right now, is the rehab of the city building. We did have, if I'm not mistaken, there might have been a draw in there for that. Additionally, as a project fund, we're also running some of the softball field rehab out there as well. So it's probably city building most likely and some softball field rehab. That's all it is. Yeah, it's the CBD fund. It was originally created as a project fund for all of the town center revitalization dating from the early 2000s. We've kind of used it as a project fund since then. So the fund's probably not correctly named, but
I think it's a good country name, because that
yeah.
sounds really bad.
We've talked about it, definitely. But it's mostly the city building itself.
Okay, entertain motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bennett? Aye. Mr. Henry? Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Beazle?
Aye.
Mr. Blau?
Aye.
Mr. Peterman?
Okay, we have 4 municipal orders, and 14. Oh, should we do this? 18. Yeah, that's, no, we'll do it. You need that.
Okay. Municipal order MM 14/2022, a municipal order reappointing David Deering as a member of the Fort Thomas Code Enforcement Board for the city of Fort Thomas, Kimball County, Kentucky, and setting his term of office.
Second. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly? Mr. Henry? Mr. Bennett? Mr. Beazle?
Aye.
Mr. Peterman? Mr. Blau?
Sorry, I'm tired. Okay, MO 15.
Municipal order MO 15/2022, a municipal order reappointing Mitch Embarez as a member of the Fort Thomas Code Enforcement Board for the city of Fort Thomas, Kimball County, Kentucky, and setting his term of office.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. For 60.
Municipal order MO 16/2022, a municipal order appointing John Martin as a member of the Fort Thomas Tree Commission for the city of Fort Thomas, Kimball County, Kentucky, and setting his term of office.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Municipal order MS 17/2022, a municipal order appointing Kevin Meyer as a member of the Fort Thomas Code Enforcement Board for the city of Fort Thomas, Kimball County, Kentucky, and setting his term of office.
All in favor, say aye. Okay, we got one more, 18. Do you have it?
The only change to this will be a transfer to a government agency instead of a public bid.
Oh, okay. A municipal order declaring city-owned personal property, vehicles, and equipment as surplus, and authorizing the city administrative officer to transfer it to a public agency.
Roll call vote for that one.
Ms. Kelly? Mr. Henry? Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Beazle?
Aye.
Mr. Blau? Mr. Peterman?
I do have a question. The agenda said consideration of animal control interlocal agreement. Now, we talked about that. We already have an interlocal agreement for
That
that.
is
So
correct.
it's just reverting back to that for animal control.
No, the reason I put that on there is so I didn't forget in my
Okay.
report that we do have a proposed interlocal agreement that isn't ready for public dissemination yet. So most likely next month, we will have an interlocal that council will need to vote on. I just want, just so everybody on council knows that is coming next month, and we're working out the details on it.
Okay. Second, I've requested going to executive session to deliberate future acquisition or sale of real property in accordance with KRS 61.810 1B.
That's the motion, is there a second?
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Bender? Mr. Weasel?
Aye.
Mr. Blau? Mr. Peak?
Are you allowed to know where the property is?
No.
Hey, I have one question before we go back.
That was me, I guess.
Peggy made a good suggestion on this historical committee here. I don't know how to start that conversation. I know there's a lot of history.
I'm already forward.
Okay, well, I just thought it was a pretty neat suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.